And God said, "Let there be
The
light."
Lord says, "Let my people go."
I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
This is the Talkin' Bible podcast.
Hey folks, welcome back to the final episode of this week's Talkin' Bible podcast. And today, sitting down, continuing our conversation with Tim Mulford. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
Hello. We are looking at the Feast of Tabernacles in John chapter 7, and I'm actually doing an exegesis for my masters, which I'm actually working on at the moment, which is actually verse 53, and then the next 12 verses of chapter 8, which is a famous story about Jesus and the woman caught in the act of adultery. And it's inserted into this story, but it doesn't belong here. So I learned that in the process of my prep. But John 7 is a lengthy discourse where Jesus goes up to this special feast, the Feast of Tabernacles in Jerusalem. But we're going to look at the first few verses only today, aren't we?
Yeah.
At the beginning of it, before Jesus even goes, really.
Yeah, and there's a lot in it, like all things. But
Yep.
Yeah. Can I start with a question?
Yes, go ahead.
It's probably diving straight into it, but I'll
Do it. Jump right in there.
So basically in verse 4, his brothers are saying, no one who wants to become a public figure acts in secret. Since you're doing these things, go show yourself to the world. For even his brothers didn't believe in him. And then Jesus pretty much says, my time's not come, I'm not going. But then later on
But then later on he goes.
Yeah, he goes. And I'm thinking, it's telling that the Jewish leaders want to kill him.
Yep.
His brother's saying, go and do it, because you're obviously here to be a public figure. But he's like, no, my time hasn't come, I'm not going. But then he goes. And I'm like, that doesn't make
Which one
sense
was
to
it?
me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to look at commentators and get their different perspectives. Here's what I think is going on. It's just without any commentaries, just off the top of my head at first reading. Maybe because I've heard this preached somewhere in the back of my mind and it's stuck, is that when Jesus says now is not the right time for me to go, he meant like right in that moment at the start of the feast.
Okay.
Is not the right time for him to go.
Okay.
It's not that he wasn't planning on going to the festival and there wasn't a right time for him to go to that festival. It's just that he deliberately didn't want to show up at the start of this festival.
Right.
So the Feast of Tabernacles, I think, is a 7-day festival.
Yep.
And you read about it later on in the passage when Jesus isn't there, and people in John chapter 7, and people are going, where is he? Surely he should be here. Everyone's talking about him. Where is he? And he's not there.
Yeah.
Jesus waited until the very pinnacle on the last day of that festival.
Right.
That was the right time
Right.
for him to present himself. And it's the famous passage where he stands up on the last day and says, if anyone is thirsty, let them come to me and drink.
Yeah.
For as the scripture says, streams of living water will flow out of him. So Jesus waited to the right time, which was actually the 7th day of the festival. There was this ritual that they went through at the festival where they would draw water. They would go down to the pool of Siloam down below the temple. They would draw water. You went there. We went there. Draw water out, and they would bring it all the way back up the hill, and they would pour it out on the altar. And they would actually do this. And on the last day, they did it 7 times. There was some kind of 7 thing. They walked around the altar 7 times. And then they would pour out this water, and they would claim this prophecy about God being like giving them living water. And Jesus waited to that moment to stand up in the crowd right when the focus is on the high priest pouring the water. And he says, hey, what you're seeing up there, I am that.
Yeah.
And so I think that is why he waited, because he wanted to wait until the certain moment to draw attention to himself.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's what's going on. But scholars may disagree with me.
Yeah. So similar to, I think of the woman with the issue of blood, and the daughter of
Jairus' daughter.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how he said, he was going to come to heal. Was it heal the daughter? I think it was. He's healed the daughter.
Yep.
But then the woman with the issue of blood stopped him.
Yep.
And in my mind, I'm going, you've got a girl who's sick and dying, and a woman with blood.
Yep.
Both important.
Yep.
But the priority is the one who's dying.
Yes, right.
But then he delays, and you see that I think the girl passes away. Is that the one?
Yes, she
passes
died.
away.
Yeah, at some point she died. Yeah.
And then, but that's if he would have went, he probably would have caught her before
He
she
might
died.
have caught her before she died, yeah.
But it was important to restore her identity, the woman with the issue of blood's identity and body, because that was the first time she probably would have heard daughter.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stopped and spent time with her. He stopped for the one.
Yeah. And in my eyes, that's important, but not as important as a dying person.
Yes, it
But
seems that way. But
he it seems like he drew it out to kind of go, okay, well, this is important because she's been ostracized for 12 years and she needs to be healed and made whole again. But if he would have went and healed her, they probably would have known that he could raise from the dead. So is it similar to one of those
I'd say it's similar to that. There's a perfect moment in time that somehow is locked up in the divine knowledge of God.
Yeah.
That he does things his way. I mean, the example you're giving is exactly the same as in 4 chapters after this story, John 11, where Jesus stays on the other side of Galilee, the other side of Jordan for 4 days after Lazarus is dead. I mean, you'd think, well, he should. And Mary's complaint is legit.
Yeah.
Lord, if you had come, he wouldn't be dead now.
Yeah.
But he, in his masterful way, had a different plan in mind. And I think that's sort of stuff that's all locked up in the supernatural wisdom of God that we can't totally understand.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think we have to be okay with that God's divine will and timing is not ours.
Yeah.
And his brothers clearly thought, come on, get on with it. You're claiming to be somebody.
Yeah.
Here's your chance. But Jesus, in his way, knew better than his brothers knew.
Well, they were probably coming from the whole, you're going to come and deliver us, go for it.
Yeah,
and
now's your chance, go and do it.
That's not why I want. Like
that's a good point.
What was it, the 5,000? How he's like, you just want me because you want food.
Yeah,
like
good
food.
point.
So maybe that could possibly be.
That's a really good point. That may be the reason Jesus wasn't going to be beholden to anybody else's agenda of what they thought he should be doing when they thought he should be doing it.
Yeah.
He's trying to say, hey, I've got a different plan in place.
Yeah.
I've got a different intention to work with here. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah. And so, he says it's not. Let's pick up on the bit where he says, now is not the right time to go. You can go anytime. The world can't hate you, but it does hate me because I accuse it of doing evil. So you go on. I'm not going to this festival because my time has not yet come. I wonder what he meant by, the world can't hate you, but it does hate me.
Yeah. It is quite a heavy thing to say. I guess, like if you think about it, when he was challenging the Pharisees, they hated it because he was telling them that they're doing evil.
Yeah.
And it did say at the start, they were plotting to kill him. So, like, I don't know if that would tap into that.
I think that's a good point.
Saying, I'm telling them that what they're doing is evil. They hate that. And possibly also that could have tied into it too, because if he would have went at that time, they might have wanted to kill him and whatnot as well.
It has come back to me because you're spot on, because this term, my time has not yet come, Jesus says it here. But multiple times in the Gospel of John, like he walks through the crowd because his time had not yet come.
Yeah.
The time had not yet come. It's several times it says his time had not yet come. Then there is a crunch moment. I think I was sitting with maybe Jeannie here or something. And anyway, I was sitting, and I'd only ever seen it specifically because I saw it in the episode of The Chosen where they drew it out really well. There's a point at which Andrew or Philip comes to Jesus towards the end of Gospel in John and says, some Greeks are here and they want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And Jesus actually says, now my time has come.
Yeah, right.
And there was something significant about these Greeks wanting to speak to Jesus that turned Jesus from the time has not yet come to the time has come. And I think what we discovered was that the time had not yet come because if Jesus had have been crucified too early, it wouldn't have actually achieved what it was trying to achieve. God's purpose was not just to rescue Israel from an enslaved power. It was to rescue humanity from sin.
Yeah.
And so it had to be broader. It had to be bigger. And it was like that. Those Greeks, those Gentiles wanting to speak to Jesus was a sign to Jesus, this thing's ready to go global. It's ready to go global now.
Yeah.
Now my time has come.
Well, that would make sense because a lot of his ministry was up in like Galilee area, and that would have had the Decapolis around them. So it would have, like the pigs.
Yep, all that happens in the Decapolis.
They probably would have been like, who is this man?
Yes.
Like I'm very curious about this man.
And it was starting to grow. And so when the time came, it's almost like Jesus saw that the thing had enough momentum that it would outlive him now.
Yeah.
And that's what he's waiting for. So, so maybe that's it. They accuse me of doing evil. The world accused me of doing evil, but I can't die yet, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
I will die. I will give my life when the time is right.
And it kind of gives us a snapshot into the festival too, because the Jewish leaders were watching for Jesus, asking, where is he?
Yeah, they want to capture him. They want to catch him out.
Yeah, and there's widespread whispering and everything. And maybe he's thinking, well, if I go now, they might try and capture me. They might try and, like,
Or some
obviously-
might try to make me king by force. It says elsewhere too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And maybe he's like, obviously he could walk straight through them or miraculous things, but maybe there was a wisdom to it where he's like, look, this is not the right time. But
Yep.
the right time is when it's at the peak of the festival, because there's a lot of things going on. We've discussed like the pouring of the water,
Yep.
the brothers saying, you know, come and do what you need to do. And then obviously the religious leaders are like, right, we want to bump him off. So maybe it was a whole bunch of reasons.
Totally. Yeah. And when you read John's gospel, he's all the way through. It's written differently to the synoptic gospels. It's written with these long discourses between Jesus and the religious elite. It's constantly, and then there's a constant toing and froing and with, you know, back and forward and accusation and Jesus, like we said earlier in the week, Jesus reaching out to them, even though he's rebuking them, he's still trying to reach out to them. So this is happening back and forward in John's gospels, especially between John's chapter 1 to 11. The book of signs, they call it, the first 11 chapters, all these signs that Jesus gives, and it's all linked to him pointing to who he is and the Pharisees not recognizing who he is. Yeah. And it's all, who is this man who's doing these things, all the way through that. And so, you know, they're accusing him of being demon possessed, and they're saying, are you really the Messiah? And there's all this conjecture around him. So Jesus is aware that's all going on, and he knows that's a powder keg for social unrest, but he doesn't want the wrong kind of social unrest. Yeah, I think it's the point. The raising of Lazarus in John 11 is a significant moment. The turning of the tables in John 12, I think it is no, it's John's Gospel's got it at the start. The other Gospels have got it at the end. Yeah. But those moments are seen as Jesus poking the bear. Yeah. On purpose, because he raises Lazarus for the purpose of poking the bear so that they would want to kill him. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too. It says, but no one would say anything publicly about him for fear of the leaders. So you can see there's also an undercurrent of the people are going, well, wait a second, this is different. What could be going on? Yep. And I think what really agitates the Pharisees is they're seeing the people questioning, going, wait, is he? Like even Nicodemus trying to stick up for Jesus, they were like, what? Does anyone come from Nazareth?
Yes,
like
that's
they could see they were losing their grip.
Yep.
And that, like it all, like you said, it's like a powder keg. It's slowly getting ready to light the ignition.
Especially among the Sadducees and the ruling class. Yeah. In fact, you see that, I think it's in John's Gospel towards the end, they say there's pretty much nothing left now. If the Romans come, if this continues, the Romans are going to come and take away our kingdom and nation completely. Yeah. So they were worried that the Romans wouldn't handle the civil unrest and would come and say, right, we're sick of a lot of you. Yeah. Kill you. So that's what they were worried about. Ironically, Jesus turns it on its head and says the reason that ultimately happened in 70 AD is because you didn't recognize my coming. They were worried that the coming was going to bring that and they had to keep it quiet. But it was the fact that they didn't recognize Jesus that ultimately brought the fall of the nation of Israel.
Because I remember seeing when we were in Israel, you know, where the temple wall was, and then they had the big bricks and everything. And I was thinking, this is amazing to see what actually took place in history. And I'm thinking, what would have happened if they just would have went, oh, right, I'm wrong. Yep. You're the Messiah. Let's do it your way. Like maybe there would have been a civil unrest, and then it
could have been very different.
Yeah. Would the church, you know, it could have been super different.
Yeah. But unfortunately, human sin and God's willingness for humans to have free will. I mean, that's not unfortunately. We're blessed that God gives us free will. Yeah. Otherwise, we're not robots. But it is a double-edged sword, a good way to put it. Yeah. The fact is we're blessed with free will, but we make some pretty poor choices sometimes. Yeah. And that's not just the Jews. We all, as we've said multiple times on this week's episodes, we all can fall into that category. We can be like the brothers who tell Jesus what he should do. Oh, Jesus, we know what's best. If you just turn up this way, that'd be what you should be doing right now. Jesus' plan and agenda is different to ours. So we can fall into that category. We can fall into the category of really questioning, Jesus, you didn't come through for me. You're not who you say you are. Yeah. You know, why didn't you come through in that situation for me? And ultimately, it must fall back to trusting in the sovereignty of God.
Yeah. I can also see a hint of this in today's society too, because, there's a lot of political things going on and there's reactions and things going on, but you can see it's almost like a whispering among people. Like you can see this whispering where people are going, is this truth? Is this right? Is this it's similar to today.
Yep.
It's such a...
What is truth? Yeah.
it's such a kingdom, like an earthly kingdom leveling message. It has people in fear going, what's going on? Like, is this true or is this not? But for those who know God, it's a really comforting. It's
that ultimate trust that God is in control and he knows what's happening.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's just us playing catch up going, wait, you mean this?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't hold the future, but I know the one who holds the future.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the message of the New Testament church. It's the message of the early church, is faced with constant persecution and the world hating them. Because here it says, Jesus says the world hates me, doesn't hate you. But later on in John, he'll say, hey, the world's going to hate you because you love me.
Yeah.
So the church has always been hated by the world.
Yeah.
But the mentality is to trust that God in his infinite wisdom will work things out in his time. And our job is to stay faithful.
Yeah.
And keep in relationship with him and keep doing good deeds and keep loving others and not fighting the world's battles with the world's ways. We don't fight the way the world fights.
Yeah. Well, it comforts me too.
It should, yeah.
Like, thinking about it, everyone is like modern day, everyone's in a truth crisis. What's truth? Your truth, his truth, everyone's truth. But like when I read it, Jesus is certain. He knows everything. Like even when it says he knew he was going to the Father, he knew it was going to happen. He knew, and so then he served.
Yep.
Like that certainty of who Jesus is.
Yep, absolutely.
That's the
Powerful,
solid,
isn't it?
Yeah, powerful, solid rock. Amongst all the shaking and
Yep.
everyone going, what's going on? He's just there going,
I got this.
Yep.
I'm holding this.
So
Yep, that's right.
It can comfort us. Like it's good to see in a modern day there's still that questioning, and there could be a lot of repentance and revival happening. There
Yes.
still is.
There still is. Yes, a lot of it. Yeah, exactly.
But we're blessed to see that like this is a comfort to us. We have someone who is unchangeable, unshakable,
Amen.
sovereign. Like we get this privilege, and we may not comprehend it. Like that's that scripture. It talks about we see in part,
Yep.
but we will know in
1
full.
Corinthians 13. Yep.
Yeah, like we're just sitting on the side, kind of going, we get the privilege to be part of this.
Yep.
But when God does something that we don't realize, it excites us,
Yes.
and we get so excited about it, and He's just there in control, just like, yep.
I've got that. I'm holding that. Yep. And we get to go along for the journey.
Yeah,
And we have that trust that one day he'll wipe away every tear.
yeah,
He will right every wrong. We don't know how or when,
yeah,
but we know he will.
yeah,
And that's what this story is showing, is that Jesus' timing was perfect for what he was trying to achieve.
yeah.
And Jesus' timing in our lives, dear listeners, is perfect for what he is trying to achieve. It may not, and very rarely doesn't seem perfect at the time, but that's
Yeah.
because his ways are higher than our ways. And we have to
remember-
trust that.
Like I was listening to NT Wright, I was telling you the other day, and he was talking about prayer, and it really stuck out to me because, like, this is something I've struggled with, because living in a society where I click a button, I get what I want.
Mm-hmm.
We have the mentality of I pray God's going to action now. But he was saying sometimes God will allow a wait, and the prophets emphasize waiting on God.
Oh, very much so.
Because we might say, God, I need X now, and we don't see X fulfilled. We get discouraged and all that. We go through this journey, and then who knows how long later, we get Y. And we're like, thank you so much.
Thank you that
I
you didn't
get
do X. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
And that you gave me Y.
Yeah.
But in that, the character, like we want the fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
We want love, joy, peace, patience.
Well, that usually comes from waiting for X to
Waiting.
happen, and X doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely it does.
Like through all the trials and
Yep.
things like, because this is perfect to emphasize that you will go through tense,
Yep.
tough times. Like Jesus was in a ticking time bomb.
Yes.
But now we know why is the cross.
Yeah. And he was
And-
in control of the timing of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're living because of what Christ has done.
Yep. And he is in control of the timing of our lives and
Yeah.
our destiny. And none of us will come to the end of our days until Jesus is ready for us to come to the end of our days.
Yeah.
Whether that's tomorrow or in 30 years' time or 40 years' time, that's still, well, you're much younger than me, so it could be 70 years' time for you. But, whenever that is,
Yeah.
that is still in God's will and God's timing, and that's that trust that it will work out when it's supposed to work out.
Yeah. And that's what we can take encouragement
Yeah,
from.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being with me this week, mate.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. We'll get you back again for sure. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Yes. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for being with us.